Good morning and a warm welcome to you. Sage here for Kalkine TV, reporting to you live from Sydney, and you are watching the Global Markets Roundup. Let's dive into some of the key highlights and happenings from Friday, starting with the US market. And the World Health Organization, or WHO, on Friday designated a new COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa with a large number of mutations as being of concern. The fifth variant to be given the designation. Global shares fell 1.81%, their biggest down day in more than a year. And France's CAC shed 4.8%. The UK's FTSE dropped as well, 3.6%, while Germany's DAX fell 4.2% and Spain's IBEX lost 5%. The benchmark US indices wrapped up the week on a gloomy note Friday, 26th November, after concerns over a new COVID variant in South Africa triggered the bearish sentiments. The S&P 500 fell 2.27%, the Dow Jones fell 2.53%, and the Nasdaq Composite was down 2.23%. The small cap Russell 2000 fell as well, 3.67%. And the markets reached new fears as the new virus strain renewed lockdown memories, and oil prices and the long-term Treasury bond yields dropped over the development. It was perhaps the worst Black Friday for the market since 1950. An expert said the new variant is easily transmissible and its high mutation rate might render the existing vaccines less effective. The governments might be forced to clamp new travel restrictions if it spreads rapidly. All 11 segments of the S&P 500 index remained in the negative territory. Energy, financials and industrial stocks were the worst performers, and healthcare, consumer staples and the utility segments were the least affected. It's now time for a small break, but please stay tuned. I'll be back with the UK and Australian market updates.
Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
where the property market is headed next,
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly,
apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
with Kalkine TV.
Welcome back. Sage here. You're watching the Global Markets Roundup show. And the European stocks plummeted amid widespread selling on Friday as reports of a newly identified and possibly vaccine-resistant coronavirus variant stoked fears of a fresh hit to the global economy and drove investors out of riskier assets. And we'll just have to cut to a short break.
Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Kalkine TV.
Welcome back. You're watching the Global Markets Roundup show. My name is Sage, and the European stocks plummeted again amid widespread selling on Friday as reports of a newly identified and possibly vaccine-resistant coronavirus variant stoked fears of a fresh hit to the global economy and drove investors out of riskier assets. The benchmark stock 600 index ended 3.7% down in its worst session since June 2020, while the volatility gauge, V2TX, for the main stock market hit a near 10-month high. And the UK stock market is trading deep in the red, with blue chip index FTSE 100 down by 2.72%, while the mid-cap focused FTSE 250 index down by 2.21%. The UK stock market was down along with other European markets after the South Africa and other countries reported a new variant of coronavirus. And as per the initial media report, the new variant is highly transmissible and may evade vaccines. International Consolidated Airlines Group, the share price of the passenger airlines company, was down by over 15%, with a day's low of £122.06 after the investors decided to sell off over the fears of a rise in coronavirus cases in Europe, which might lead to another lockdown-like scenario impacting the company's revenue. Novacyte SA. Shares of the medical equipment company was up by over 28% after the company's real-time PCR test was approved in the UK by the Health Security Agency, and the company plans to resume sales of its product soon in the United Kingdom. Bonhill Group plc. Shares of the B2B business service provider was down by over 20%, with a day's low of £8.75 after the company announced its business update. And the company expects a weaker digital sales in the US market, leading to a decline in share price. Japan's Nikkei slumped on Friday to its lowest levels in a month as a new coronavirus variant found in South Africa raised an alarm, while the news that Beijing has asked Chinese hailing giant Didi to delist from the New York Stock Exchange also soured the mood. The Nikkei average dropped 2.53%, its lowest finish since October 25th, and posting its biggest daily fall in more than 5 months. The broader topics fell 2.01% to a 6-week closing low. And China's stocks closed lower on Friday as the domestic COVID-19 cases and a new and possibly vaccine-resistant coronavirus variant weighed on investor sentiment, with semiconductor-related and energy shares leading the drop. The blue chip CSI 300 index fell 0.7%, while the Shanghai Composite Index lost 0.6%. And South Korea's shares ended at a 2-week low on Friday and posted their biggest weekly fall in a month as a near record daily infections at home and a new coronavirus variant spreading in Africa spooked investors. The benchmark Kospi ended down, or 1.47%, and the lowest close since November 11th, and extending the declines to a 4th straight session. Let's move on now to the Australian market. And the ASX 200 benchmark fell 1.73% on Friday. The World Health Organization, or WHO, on Friday designated a new COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa with a larger number of mutations as being of concern, the 5th variant to be given the designation. And let's take a look across the commodity market, starting with the bond yields. The 2-year yield for the US stood at 0.50%, while for Australia it stood at 0.63%. And the 5-year yield for the US stood at 1.16%, while for Australia it stood at 1.33%. And the 10-year yield for the US stood at US $1.47. For Australia it stood at 1.73%. And for Germany it stood at 0.34%. The dollar index fell 0.757, with the euro was up 1%. And oil prices plunged US $10 a barrel on Friday, their largest one-day drop since April 2020, amid fears over the new variant of the coronavirus. And the Brent crude settled down to US $72.72 a barrel, a weekly decline of more than 8%. WTI crude settled down at $68.15 a barrel, declining more than 10.4% on the week. And gold prices reversed earlier gains since amid the move away from riskier assets, spot gold prices were down 0.09%. And meanwhile, the most active January iron ore contract on the Dalian Commodity Exchange ended trading 6.7% lower at 575.50 yuan, or US $90.06 a tonne. And that's all for now, but do keep watching Kalkine TV for more of the market update. Sage signing off.